Chapter 189. I have an urgent message for the progenitor. Vida snaps, and the soldiers stand aside. What incredible social power. They don't question her, they don't inspect her, they simply obey, because she is a Thanatos. Back in Skyhope, if I tried to demand an audience with a king I would have been laughed out of the castle. Back when I was a first lady, I mean. If I tried to do that now I'd be attacked. Ineffectually, of course, but still attacked. Anyway, it's notable to me because of the trust involved. The Thanatos aren't just an immortal ruling class with absolute power, they are a family. The progenitor may as well be a goddess, but if any of the other queens demand to see her immediately there's an implicit expectation that it will be important, that it will be worth her time. It's not questioned, because the idea of bothering her for something trivial is unthinkable in the first place. I wonder if it's literal. As in, are Thanatos souls designed in such a way that they're unable to question their leader? Queen Zolrenza's absurd statements about perfection certainly imply a degree of indoctrination, but it could just as easily have been an issue of her being uniquely stupid. It's important to never discount the possibility of people simply being rather dumb, and Zolrenza is a prime suspect for the eternally common condition. Perfect form. Pa. Are you getting mad about something? Vida asks hesitantly, having apparently learned the polite way to introduce the idea that she knows with absolute certainty that I am getting mad about something. Ah, she's getting better all the time. I'm so proud of her. Yes, but it's nothing important, I assure her. Thank you for prodding my attention. Of course. I smile at her and she smiles back with her eyes, our attention then returning to the hallway. I must confess, I don't entirely know what's going on at the moment. She just stiffened up all of a sudden, becoming unresponsive in the way she tends to do when speaking with Nora, and then came back to us in a panic. Not really a great sign, but I respect the fact that she doesn't want to explain it more than once. To the progenitor's audience chamber we go, then, to see what my little demigoddess fears so much. We soon make it to the massive, utterly ostentatious room where I first met the small moth woman of unfathomable power, the glittering columns leading the eye up to the high ceiling on which a mural of the Mistwatcher, its massive tendrils stretching in every direction rather than curled up in a ball, floats through a black background patterned seemingly at random with white dots. It's a very odd image, one that seems utterly fantastical and completely imagined. Yet while I don't know the progenitor all that well, she doesn't seem the type to feature an image of no import above her own chambers. Curious, very curious. I catch myself swishing my tail in anticipation and forcibly calm it. This is a room in which we meet one of the most powerful people in the entire world. I must remain utterly in control at all times. I was having a fucking bath, the progenitor grumbles, walking into the room completely sopping wet and dressed in only a towel. This better be good. What? In some sick way I have Gildra to thank for keeping my composure in that moment. Not because of the way she violated my mind and soul, but because her general audacity at formal functions before that all came to a head. I am prepared for a person that acts utterly outside my expectations, but this is a tactic I hadn't anticipated from the progenitor. And it is a tactic, that much is clear. At the very least, she could quite trivially dry herself with magic. Her small form is not weak like it appears, it still houses the full might of an ancient soul. So why this display? Why show herself like this? Why subject herself to the discomfort when she could, instead, not? Apologies, progenitor, Vida says, bowing her head slightly. And isn't that about as different from her human self as you can get? I spent days impressing on her the importance of respecting those with the power to end your life and she still managed to piss off every noble she ever met. Myself included, oftentimes. Now look at her, bowing her head without prompting. How far she's come. Ah, no time for those thoughts. I need to focus on the progenitor. What's her game? It can't be a misguided attempt to put me at ease. She saw through me in our initial meeting and would know that this is how I'd react. An attempt to actively put me on the back foot, then? No. Don't wonder, think. What are her goals in this situation? What are her assets and threats? Why is she wearing a towel? Don't just apologize, the progenitor grunts. Out with it. What does she gain from putting me off balance and keeping me guessing? What does she gain from breaking her illusion of godhood to me, even if superficially? What does she know about me that she could use as a fulcrum here? Why does she care? This is the same woman that purposefully snubbed me for hours straight for no reason beyond the fact that she could. She went out of her way to demonstrate how much she doesn't care about me, so. Oh. I'm being an idiot. This isn't about me. This show is for Vida. Of course it's for Vida. The beloved great-granddaughter that obtains a godlike power strong enough to potentially challenge her, entirely by chance. Something that could easily, even casually disrupt whatever long-term plans she has in motion. She either destroys or controls that, there's no middle ground. The progenitor is showing weakness to Vida in order to foster closeness, because she wants emotional leverage in the event that the two of them disagree. I relax slightly, since that is the best-case scenario here. Vida has spoken with me a lot about her time with the progenitor, and none of it has sounded like abusive manipulation. Which means it's non-abusive manipulation, and that's fine. Because that's the thing about people like us, we are never not manipulating. Once the mindset has become ingrained enough, once you are trained to look at the world as a series of pressure valves and levers, it doesn't go away. Sure, there are times when we forget for a moment, when vulnerability and intimacy allow our thoughts a time of peace, but we never stop knowing that the gift we give creates an intangible debt that weighs as something to repay. We never stop knowing that planting a kiss on her neck changes the feel of the cuddle just the slightest bit, nudging her thoughts just a little more towards I'm curious how it would feel to go further. Sometimes I don't even want things to go further, I just want to kiss the neck of the woman I love, but that does little to change reality. Vida is not and probably will never be interested in sex, but she, or I suppose more specifically Tal, is coming around to the idea of it simply on the basis that I'm interested in it, and I've been subtly pushing her further towards that. Not out of a desire to pressure her, it's just a natural result of our actions. But I should probably stop thinking about sex in front of her great-grandmother. My point, which I'm already second-guessing because I've used sex as the example and that's always a messy topic, is that being unable to stop manipulating people doesn't mean that you want to hurt anyone. It just means you're very hyper-aware of how the things you do could hurt someone, and consequently it often makes you better at avoiding that. And from what I can tell, while the progenitor is habitually presenting herself in a way that she intuits will be most likely to appeal to Vida, it's not out of malice. She seems to genuinely love Vida, and though she has the capacity to choose a dozen other methods of manipulation, she is opting for the softest and kindest one, mutual respect. Which, again, is the best-case scenario. Unless of course this entire charade was a calculated play specifically to make me think that, but I should probably meet the woman more than 2 times before I make judgments about manipulation recursion. Also I'm still fairly certain she doesn't give a flying fuck about me. Nora contacted me and said that somewhere in the area of 16 hours from now there's going to be something called a sky break, Vida reports. I don't know what that is but she seemed really freaked out about it. The progenitor pauses, her body going still as the mask of the disgruntled yet loving grandmother comes off and is replaced with the cold calculation of an immortal monster. This is one of the few things you could have said that would spur me to immediate action, she says, and so I must, for the sake of completeness, ask, what are the odds she is lying to you? For any reason? Fun, malice, whimsy, it doesn't matter. Is it possible? Vida hesitates, taking a moment to give that the consideration it deserves. Good. I think. Very low, she decides on. I'm much younger than her, obviously, and I'm sure she is the type of person to look into this sort of thing, but I'd legitimately be surprised if she can obfuscate her emotions from me. The way we interact, it's mostly emotion. Before we could speak a common language, we spoke with each other through impressions of the other's mood, and I think that's inherent to what we are. So to that end, I'm confident this is real. Nora was very flustered. I think she was warning me out of legitimate concern. Well, I'm not sure I want to know what sorts of things can fluster Nora, of all people. She said it's called a skybreak? What else did Nora say? The progenitor presses. That the one below all was hungry. And that I should return to my own island to defend it. The progenitor is silent for a moment, quiet and calculating. If we assume Nora truly does care about Vida, or at the very least wants her to live, there's two logical possibilities here. The warning is genuine, or the warning is a ruse to get Vida to depart Liriope before an impending invasion of Liriope. The progenitor is no doubt judging the odds of each with far greater access to knowledge of Nora's schemes than I have, and ultimately neither option particularly affects me personally. I stay respectfully silent, hands clasped behind my back, as I will likely continue doing for this entire conversation. Yes. You probably should, the progenitor says slowly, thoughts opaque behind her alien eyes. The term skybreak isn't some dramatic euphemism. The entire orbital structure of the islands are about to change, and that will just be the start of it. The one below all is about to be very active. It takes some amount of effort to refrain myself from immediately interrogating her for details, but Vida thankfully picks up on, and shares, my distress. Are we about to get hit with perception event scale problems? She asks. Am I in danger of being noticed? No and no, I believe, the progenitor says. Skybreaks tend to be the time Nora is most active, and if she's telling the truth I suspect her distress is about how early this one is occurring. It's long before we expected, so her plans might not be ready, or she might just be rushed in implementing them. These things are hundreds of years apart, you understand. What are they though? Vida presses. That would require a lot of background knowledge to properly explain, and we are very short on time, the progenitor says. All you need to know to protect the plentiful wood is that the entire island will rapidly decelerate, causing catastrophic damage to any structures not prepared for a pseudo-seismic event. And considering what I know of your island's history and general lack of immortals, I doubt any human-designed structures will survive. I'm sorry Grandmama, what does seismic mean? Vida asks, sparing me from having to admit that I don't know either. The entire island will shake and lurch like the one below all has grasped it. Imagine the shock waves associated with perception events, but affecting the whole landmass simultaneously rather than a localized area. That's utterly horrifying. Skyhope might survive, maybe, as I did my best to redesign the city to collapse less catastrophically under the conditions of another perception event, but my best isn't likely to be very good in these circumstances. I didn't have anywhere near the influence required to redesign the entire city under new standards, and even if I did, the new standards are only our first attempt at solving the issue, likely to be riddled with mistakes and incorrect assumptions that will literally collapse on our heads in practice. And no other cities in Volca even have that much. After that event, the progenitor continues, since there is apparently still more we must prepare for, you'll likely have to intercept large amounts of falling debris. I'm not terribly worried for you on that front, however. Most of the meteorites large enough to cause catastrophic damage will inevitably impact islands higher up in the atmosphere. I agree with the progenitor's assessment there. Falling debris is a far less dangerous issue than the initial pseudo-seismic event, as she calls it. Her own people have been the ones to adequately train our defending forces to deal with rocks dropping from the sky, ironically. And while that's amusingly fortunate, I can't find it in me to feel thankful, since she was very much trying to kill us all. Oh, well. Better allies than continued enemies. This is gonna be such a pain, Vida groans. Soldier-designed buildings should hold against the seismic hit fine, right? Of course, the progenitor nods. So anything made by to kill is fine, but Skyhope is fucked. And there's no way they're going to actually listen to us when we tell them to evacuate, right? I respond, since I'm being directly addressed. It's likely we will require either significant proof or significant force, I agree. And I don't believe we have any proof. You don't? The progenitor confirms. I can't even gather any. I've not a clue how your older sister senses these in advance, Morosa. I'll see if I can convince her to teach me when we meet. Vida nods, picking up on the subtext. Fuck, I'm so proud of her. She's so consistent about it lately. Good, the progenitor nods. You should head back to your island, then, Morosa. There's no need to worry about Liriope, but it sounds like you'll need all the time you can to prepare. Alright, Vida nods. Then, I'd like to go too. I glance behind us, where Princess Talanica, looking rather terrified with herself at the prospect of barging into the progenitor's audience room unannounced, has, well, barged into the progenitor's audience room unannounced. I want to help Mal with her island. She says again, more as an outlet for her own anxiety than any real need to clarify the situation to anyone in the room. She and the progenitor stare at each other for a tense moment. Fine, the progenitor relents. You will wear full metallic combat gear the entire time, you will not resist any emergency teleport procedures, and you will be punished for this interruption when you return. Thank you, progenitor. Talanica chirps. You're welcome, she dismisses, waving us all off. Now get out of here. I have to prepare as well. I bow as the others signal respect with their eyes, and the three of us quickly depart, Vida grabbing our wrists and teleporting us to the long-range teleportation platform the moment we've departed the progenitor's residence. Does teleportation not work inside it? I suppose that makes sense. Thank you for coming with us, Tala, Vida says. I was hoping to introduce you to the rest of my family under better circumstances, but, well, this is just my life I guess. Oh, Mal, it's fine, Tala insists. I'll probably make a better impression with them if I'm helping out anyway. To contrast all the, murder. Well, she's not wrong, but I can't resist the opportunity to prod at her. There's no need to worry, Tala, I assure her sweetly. I defeated you in battle before you could kill anyone, remember? You and that Vrothizo barely nicked my armor, forcing you to retreat, and thus defeating you in the engagement, I explain with as straight a face as I can muster. Which is to say, perfectly so. Barring the blooms of blue from my traitorous chromatophores. That is how defeat works in war, you know. Tala just groans and orders the nearest man to fetch her combat armor, which I shall consider a satisfying victory. I can't believe I'm going to have to try to convince Skyhope to do a full evacuation, Vida groans, leaning up against my side. I wrap my tail around her, extending my wings to counterbalance her as I lift her up by the thighs and bring her up so I can kiss her forehead. You don't have to do it alone, I promise. I'll help you every step of the way. I really appreciate that, Penelope, but the last time you were in Skyhope you publicly threatened to murder thousands of people, Vida reminds me. It seemed like a good idea at the time, I hedge. I had a somewhat self-destructive view of my own reputation during that particular episode. But you know I've been slowly repairing my relationship with the nobles who would actually be responsible for making a decision like evacuation, and, well, worst case scenario, darling, having someone who both can and believably might slaughter everyone in the city is a rather valid way of convincing everyone it'd be a good idea to evacuate. True, she concedes. The question then becomes, where do we evacuate them to? Mimes can't support even a fraction of Skyhope's population, and, I mean, where else is there? Every other city in Vokla will be destroyed for similar reasons. You have your answer, then, Penelope shrugs. There's nowhere. We simply have to account for and deal with the fact that nearly everyone is going to become homeless, and organize the reconstruction efforts accordingly. In the time we have, we need to secure food sources, water sources, and distribution routes to as many places as possible. We need to get people to safe ground to survive this seismic event before it happens, and most other things will be ad hoc simply because we don't have time for anything complicated. I hate that, Vida hisses. I don't want anybody to have to be homeless. I smile, and kiss her again. I know, honey. It will just be temporary, though. We can lament the issues later, as well as be thankful we're getting any time to prepare at all. Most islands won't. We should help Baldoni and Sigulda as well, Vida sighs. They're part of my island too. I find my eyebrows raising of my own accord. I honestly hadn't even thought about that. That will be difficult, I decide. If for no other reason than travel time. We don't have enough teleportation-capable people to cover that much of the island in the time we have, let alone take the time needed to explain the situation and organize the required response. You, me, Tala, Capita. Maybe Lark. Vida hedges. Though her capacity is kinda low, so I'm not sure if she could safely channel enough mana for an advanced spatial alteration. I'm also not sure we could trust Tala or Capita to negotiate with foreign nations alone, I muse. Even Lark would do better. Hey. I have plenty of negotiation training. Tala objects. And yet I still rank you behind a literal soul-eating monster. I smirk, then glance at Vida. Two of them, even. At least your sister can speak Vulcan. Well, gimme a Vulcan that you don't care for all that much and I'll extract the language from them, Tala says, crossing her arms indignantly. See, it's a Thanatos sensibilities like that one which I think will muck up any attempts at peaceful communication. What do you mean, a Thanatos sensibilities? Tala grumbles. That's speciesism. Yes, the speciesism is definitely a major reason humans don't like a Thanatos, I replied dryly. Fuck, she just makes it so easy. It's hard to not get distracted from the upcoming crisis. Gah, I'm such a mess nowadays. Push forward, don't stagnate. Worrying about the rest of the island can happen after we've got a way to deal with any of it. Is there any reason to delay our teleportation any further? My armor, Tala reminds me. No, Penelope's right, we can take 2 trips, Vida nods. Meet us when you're prepared, okay Tala? We'll have someone on the teleporter, don't worry. Okay, she agrees. Vida and I step onto the platform, and the next thing I know the air is humid, the light is natural, and we are back on Verdantop. It's good to be home. Penelope, you handle the evacuation of Skyhope, Vida orders me. I can't help but be surprised by both the order itself and the decisiveness behind it. You sure? I ask. I'm not exactly well liked over there. I don't need you to be liked, I just need you to be listened to, she says, lifting up into the air. Skyhope is basically your baby, you'll focus better on making sure it's safe. Meanwhile, I need to gather a workforce. Understood, I agree, weaving a teleportation spell. You'll take care of informing everyone of the situation here, then? Yeah, she says, launching herself towards me as proper. Her next words are carried by spell, for my ears and my ears alone. I expect you to save every single person in that damn city, she demands. Not one casualty. I lick my lips, suddenly overcome with an urge to do so. Yes, my queen, I purr back, only half joking, and then teleport myself into the open air above Skyhope. These poor, unsuspecting civilians don't understand what sort of day they're about to have, and I have been tasked with correcting this. With no casualties. Which means no inciting panic. That's the easy way ruled out, I suppose. At least the hard way should be here any second now. Lady Vesuvius, Brahm says, appearing right on time. Brahm, please, I chuckle lightly. You know I'm not legally a first lady anymore. And you know that you're not welcome in Vaka for the same reasons, he responds. What are you doing in our skies? I smile. Brahm is both a good man and an intelligent one, a fascinatingly rare combination. He's learned this lesson about trying to arrest me, at least. How laws fall apart when you lack the strength to enforce them, Alas, the situation prevents me from indulging in taunting him about this. I bring dire news, I'm afraid, I say, shifting my posture to something appropriately serious. A natural disaster the likes of which you've only seen in scripture is due to rock this and every island in the next 15 to 16 hours. If you want to avoid a catastrophic loss of life, we need to evacuate the city before that time. Brahm regards me for a moment, taking the time to consider my statement with the gravity it deserves. He truly is a difficult man to dislike. "Do you have any proof of this?" he asks. Which is, unfortunately, an extremely reasonable question to which I have no reasonable answer. "I do not," I answer with genuine regret. "In truth, I'm not even entirely certain I trust my source, but I trust them enough, and the structural damage we're risking is likely to kill or at least seriously injure anyone with a roof over their heads or a sewer under their feet. We're talking a level of destruction comparable to the Perception event 2 years ago. Evacuating a city in the amount of time you describe is unlikely to be possible," Brahm says. "And it would leave the citizens of Skyhope completely vulnerable during that time." "I understand your hesitation," I nod seriously. "But you have my word that we will be doing everything in our quite considerable power to assist you during this crisis. Because it is a crisis, a worldwide crisis wherein we will all have to work together if we want to survive. This is not a trick or a threat, it is divine intervention, Brahm. The Mistwatcher will be changing the orbits of the islands. All of them." "Absurd," Brahm says. "I can't possibly." He trails off, his illusion showing no tells I can reliably dissect for clues about his thoughts. But my guess is fear. He's found something. "What is it, Brahm?" I press. "Do you see something I don't?" "The hole in the city," he says. "Down below it. The Mistwatcher is moving." I raise my eyebrows in surprise, immediately flying over to the center of the city to look down. Brahm will have no trouble keeping up, seeing as he's already there. Sure enough, as I look down the giant hole via which our city now deposits its non-recyclable waste, I see the mist peeling back and revealing our great, evil god in all its glory, beautiful and writhing with its uncountable blank eyes and incomprehensibly vast tendrils. This in itself is not unusual. The mists reveal their watcher with regular frequency, but rarely do they reveal this much activity. The Mistwatcher is prone to simple, passive movements. Its tendrils slither and undulate like a ball of restless snakes, but they're idle movements that seem to serve no particular purpose. Occasionally an eye will rotate to indicate that some island or another is about to get slapped, and the wrath of this wretched false god makes itself known, but then things quickly return to the status quo. Not so, anymore. If the Mistwatcher's normal movements are the idle twitching of a sleeping beast, I am now witnessing the stretches of a waking giant, its tendrils unraveling in every possible direction, its eyes moving with conscious purpose. The Mistwatcher wakes. Our fates are shattered before its will, and mercy is as alien to it as it is to us. "Believe me now?" I ask the air, unable to keep my horror from my voice. "I will begin the evacuation," Brahm answers, another of his bodies appearing beside me. "Good," I respond evenly, keeping any emotion from my voice. "Fuck, this is really happening, isn't it? A god is going to yawn and the whole world is going to suffer. If anyone asks, I believe the name for the catastrophe is a skybreak, by the way. A catastrophe, unlike any in recorded history, is a name already?" Brahm asks. "You forget you're dealing with immortals, little Templar," I sigh. "They seem to have a lot of records they don't share with us. Shall you do the announcement, or should I?" "Allow me," Brahm sighs. "My words are less likely to incite a panic." He's right, I suppose. A blessing and a curse, that. While he does so, the two of us discuss our evacuation plan. It's simple enough. In practice, I will clear away nearby areas of forest to create open space in which Vida's incoming forces can start preparing for the refugees. As long as they stay low to the ground and don't have anything fall on their heads, the people of Skyhope should be fine. So all we really need is a wide open space that can accommodate everyone. Afterwards, I will join the High Templars in airlifting as many people as possible to maximize our exfil, with crisis and riot management performed as needed, and once everyone is safe from the immediate crisis, it will be time to manage all of the many secondary crises of distributing water, food, and shelter after Skyhope's destruction. I head off to the forest to start clearing immediately, though I keep an ear on Brahm's citywide speech. He keeps things relatively straightforward, framing the situation with a little white half-lie, A mandatory lockdown is being initiated, and all people are to clear the streets and return to their homes within the next 2 hours. A worrying demand, but a surprisingly clever one. Tell people they need to evacuate, and the streets would become a chaotic mess as those returning to their homes clash with those trying to get out of the city first. Wasting 2 hours putting everyone exactly where we don't want them to be is somewhat counterproductive, but I begrudgingly agree with Brahm's reasoning. Here, it's better than mass panic in the streets. It allows us increased control over when to evacuate various parts of the city, and getting people to cease working and return home is much easier than convincing them to abandon their homes entirely. It's also something the people of Skyhope know how to do, as it mirrors procedure for Vigor Knights. Shortly into my work clearing the forest, High Templar Interitus the Fractured joins me, speeding along the situation considerably. Using her talent to obliterate large swaths of the forest lets me focus on preventing those swaths from simply regrowing, playing to each of our strengths. It still takes us the full 2 hours to clear out an area to my satisfaction, however, and I can't help but stress about that a bit. 14 hours left. Once the streets are clear, the evacuation begins. Brahm had already started directing specific sections of the city to pack any food, water, and essential valuables, and so on his order they begin to depart. Kashia and I are directed to the center of the city to collect people in a telekinetic field and fly them to safety, while Brahm manages the exterior of the city, covering as much as he can but ultimately being limited to a radius of influence far smaller than the city itself. It hardly even takes a few minutes for the problems to start. Many people immediately begin to panic, trying to rush out and flee into streets already filled to capacity. It's also not hard to find those taking issue with being forced to leave their homes at all, even at the cost of their own life. These people become my responsibility, as Brahm refuses to force them to safety. Irritating. Very, very irritating. 0 casualties. Such is her command, and so I will accept nothing less. The hours tick by. Brahm is completely invaluable to the entire evacuation process, smoothing over every single thing he becomes a part of. This is, unfortunately, part of the problem. Despite his moniker, he cannot literally be everywhere at once, and as the evacuees grow restless we gain an increasing need for cool heads both inside and outside the city. My preventative measures to avoid full-blown riots aren't ideal, but they are unfortunately necessary. Open your eyes, the draconic bitch has been flying all over the place and kidnapping people. This is a full-blown invasion. A takeover. And what if it is? I challenge, descending from the sky next to the loud and insipid idiot rolling up an entire street's worth of people, risking catastrophe. My talons impact the earth with a deafening thud, cracks in the stone road forking outwards underneath me. Are you going to stop me, little man? He gapes, terror rippling through the crowd. Which is fine, at least for now. I need to undermine this man's authority, cow him, and leave this street shaken but compliant. Undo the damage. It's a short-term solution at best, but we are dealing with a rather short timetable in the first place. You. He stutters, which is all I really need him to do before I barrel over his words again. I'm not taking anything over, I correct him, nor is anyone else, for that matter. It is how you have been told it is, for your safety, we must move you. My people simply do not need as much help evacuating from the incoming natural disaster as the great and utterly massive city of Skyhope, and so I am assisting. If you insist on getting in the way of the evacuation, if you keep trying to rile up a mob and endangering the lives of everyone who lives here, I will remove your voice box. Understand? He doesn't answer, just staring at me. I don't have the time to waste forcing an affirmative, so I just act like that is one. Good, I say firmly, then take back off into the sky in a dramatic enough fashion to effectively count as winning the argument. I have more people to ferry. This isn't sustainable. I know it isn't sustainable, but I don't have enough trust to use methods other than fear, and the city is too big for fear to keep hold for long. The slightest trigger could cause a complete collapse, but we just have to keep going, keep being as efficient as possible, keep stamping down on every leak that springs up one at a time because we don't have the time to do things any better. Everything blurs together for me, from airlift to airlift, crisis to crisis. I cast and I shout and I force this horrid, fragile bomb of a city in line. I will save them all, and not even their own stupidity will stop me. 4 hours. 6 hours. 10 hours. 14 hours. We are almost done, and yet we are still out of time. Vesuvius. Cassia shouts at me. There's a group outside the city trying to march back in. Watch her fucking damn it. I pass off my current collection of humans to her, waiting to feel her aerokinesis peel them from my grasp before blasting out of the city at speeds said humans wouldn't be able to survive. Looking over the walls, I scowl at the sight ahead of me. Pa. A group, she says. That has to be nearly 4,000 people. They're still in the temporary encampment, but they're rolling up more and more of it, gathering a following that I'm not sure I have a safe way to disperse. What do I do? Shock and awe. Or do I just knock them all unconscious to discourage any further descent? How can I? Oh. Well, perhaps I don't have to worry about it after all. Off in the distance, Vita appears from thin air, floating high above the forest. The mob is well within her sensory range, and so it doesn't take her long to scowl, accelerating towards them. Back to evacuation work for me, I suppose. She will keep them in line. Still, I can't help but keep an eye on her as I turn around, my highly advanced optical system able to spot details even from the miles between us. Cracks start to form in the sides and back of her armor, and underneath them matching cracks in her carapace follow, the inside of her body glowing a bright, brilliant blue. And then, from within them, she starts to emerge. Tendrils of blue slither out from within her body, not quite physical and not quite ephemeral. They grow and grow and grow, snakes of power with no apparent end, plainly visible to the naked eye. The form my love has been incubating since she first determined she could, a soul that is a body. An impossible thing, made possible by her otherworldly genius. It's far from fully emerged, and yet it is nonetheless gorgeous, indescribably so. Pure translucent turquoise, bright and demanding. They fork into the sky, first 6, then 12, then 20, as many as she desires and as many as she needs. They expand around her, dozens of feet to her left and right, a presence in the sky that can be ignored by neither man nor beast. The mob shouts at her, pointing up at the coming of a new goddess, and she speaks. Enough. The volume of the sound carries physical weight, and the mob staggers. Remain where you were directed, and you will be taken care of. Vita promises. Continue this selfish, suicidal rebellion, and you will be taken care of. Now disperse. Then she starts flying towards me, a trajectory that has some of the people I'm ferrying start to scream. I just smile and open my arms, though, and when she collides with me in midair I squeeze her with all my might, planting a kiss on each cheek. Her face is colder than usual. Vita, I greet her, my heart overflowing with joy. You seem to be hatching, darling. Neither Sigolda nor Baldoni were happy to see me, she sneers. So I got fed up with them and confiscated all the metal I could find. Which was, well, a lot. Oh watcher, she ate their national stockpiles, didn't she? That's one way to force a country to listen to you. Walk up to the greatest artifacts from their entire history and just start shoving them down your throat. Baldoni had far more metal than Skyhope as well, what with all the defense systems. Vita probably ate dozens of times more metal in the past 10 hours than she has in the rest of her life combined. Can you take care of the stragglers for me then, darling? I ask her. Easily, she agrees, extracting from my hug and starting to snake those rapturous tendrils into nearby homes. The moment they touch someone, that person vanishes. Oh, darling. Multiple instantaneous teleports. It is no wonder you frighten your great-grandmother. With the right resources, you could surpass her in barely a week. It's happening soon, Vita warns me. I can feel it. He's moving in the other world. How long do we have? I ask. Minutes. Then you return just in time. We extract ourselves from each other, I continuing my flight and she continuing hers. There is no time left to think, to speak, to do anything other than act. Exhaustion crushes me on all sides, stifling me physically and mentally, but I continue to work. It is all I can do, and with one of the largest groups yet straining my magical capacity, I touch down in the evacuation site and feel the world end. Everyone collapses to the ground in a single screaming jolt, the rumble of God's wrath shaking the entire island at once. The whole world shudders, crashing and screaming and breaking as everything starts to move, the very ground beneath our feet turning against us. We collapse against each other, what was once a society now nothing but a screaming, panicking tangle of limbs, clutching to the grass below us for life. Cracks form in Skyhope's mighty walls and, where not even a perception event could fell them, they start to collapse. I watch helplessly as the great city I was born in, that I ruled in, crumbles to rubble. Above us and around us, every other island suffers a similar apocalypse. They shift in the sky, their predictable patterns shattering against the will of a god. The islands shift in the sky. The titanic land masses on which our life exists, the predictable cycles which define every waking moment of our lives, the years we measure time by and the nights during which we rest. It all becomes naught. They slow, they stop, they change direction, and together our world opens like a clamshell, bisecting a path through open air from the lowest mist to the top of the sky. And then the mist watcher, a passive observer no longer, begins to rise through it. As the islands drift further and further from the empty column in the center, more and more tendrils rise to fill the void. At first they are somewhat familiar, the thin, tapered tips known to us by scale. But then they move higher, and higher, and higher, and they grow thicker, and thicker, and thicker, and we remember in that primal, incomprehensible way that something which already looks large from thousands of miles away is impossibly scaled up close. Tendrils thicker than our island undulate past us, on which eyes larger than my imagination grow. Everything I have ever known, ever could know, is smaller than a single pupil on the impossible mass that rises past us. Its mere presence tugs on us, pulls at us, threatens to lift us off our feet and yank us careening towards the mist watcher's rising body, but something holds us firmly to the ground. The mist watcher goes higher, and higher, and higher still, until we finally learn the origin of this calamity's name. Piercing the veil of even the highest islands, I watch in horror as the mist watcher opens up the sky and steps directly through it. And for the first time, there is darkness. And for the first time, there is light. The yellow mist above us dispelled, the sky broken, we see what lies beyond. Blackness, infinite blackness, salted with specks of white and gorgeous, impossible mosaics. The mist watcher swims out into this incomprehensible void, this sky of night, and leaves us behind like a discarded shell, heading towards the only feature in the blackness above, a giant, bright sphere, floating in the darkness, colored white and green and blue. Like a colored glass marble, it rests, gorgeous and impossible. I can't even begin to guess what it might be, the whole event so far beyond my comprehension I may as well be a fly trying to build a city. All I know is that when the watcher's tendrils start to wrap around it, the beautiful blue orb cracks, and when the flakes fall apart they fall towards us. Chapter 190 I feel bloated. My tendrils slither through the shattered streets, twisting under rubble to provide life-saving touches to the crushed and dying, as well as collecting the dead. So much for no casualties, but I never really thought we'd manage to pull it off. I don't doubt that everywhere else on the island is suffering even worse than Skyhope, but I still came back here right before the final moment. I hate this place, but it's the only home my human self ever had. I don't really feel like that helpless, starving girl anymore. She certainly defines parts of me, but at some point I need to let go of her pain and trauma in order to function as someone on the complete opposite end of the power scale. I'm about as far from her as I can be, now. I am, after all, the most powerful being on the island. Probably the most powerful being on nearly every island. Hence, I feel bloated. I engorged myself on metal today, more than doubling my channeling capacity and nearly completing the body that still writhes within my chitinous shell. I can swat aside nations. I can probably give the progenitor a run for her money, though I'm not arrogant enough to assume that Grandmama doesn't have any tricks up her sleeve for an entity like me. Not that I plan to fight her, just, you know. I know, Tal agrees. We're power incarnate, and we can keep going. Keep ascending. Keep getting stronger faster than anyone else. But none of it matters. Not in the face of that. We glance up, the broken sky black instead of yellow. A darkness alien to us descends on the world, lit only by the white pinpricks in the distance, and the blue reflection of a world utterly incomprehensible to me, getting torn apart and devoured with meticulous, practiced precision. To the people of this world, I am a goddess. To the world itself, I am a fly. The blue orb serving as the Mistwatcher's lunch is considerably smaller than the Mistwatcher itself, but the fact that it's comparable at all is horrifying. A tiny marble next to the whole of existence is a damn big marble. It's a terrifying sight. The Mistwatcher cracks the sphere open with the sort of finesse only describable as such from very, very far away. The outer layers of the world crack and splinter, pulled away in tiny chunks with kineticism. Inside them, a glowing, red-orange center is revealed, burning and spiraling up into the Mistwatcher's body, who drinks the world dry of its strange, liquid center. The liquid on the exterior, water, I think, is pulled away alongside the broken fragments of stone, and, little by little, pushed towards us. The Mistwatcher is turning the exterior of the sphere into new islands, and the interior is simply food. Interesting. Very interesting. Does this imply there are more of these spheres? Tal asks, and I think it actually does. Is this where our island comes from? All islands? But, if so, where did the spheres come from? I shake my head, not up to answering questions like that, especially not when I have work to do. I continue floating along above the streets of Skyhope, twisting myself into and around every nook and cranny to pick up the souls and people in need. Should I do this across the entire island, I wonder? Normally that'd take way too long, but if the Mistwatcher isn't around right now, will it pick up the souls? I glance up at it again, this time without moving my head. Though my soul is not quite the same shape as I'm used to, it still has eyes, and through them I stare at the Mistwatcher's soul, the hungry mouths and tendrils which are indeed reaching back towards us, even from farther away than usual. Damn. I'll need to pick up the pace. But my tendrils are just a bit more solid than usual, and I'm still getting used to the whole variable intangibility thing. We really picked a terrible day to manifest this particular evolution, didn't we? Tal comments dryly. No kidding. We feel like our chitin is about to burst, but we're still not ready yet. Our torso is still mostly pseudo-liquid, our legs have barely started forming properly, and our wings just take forever to fill up with the proper amounts of anima because of their biological construction. Still, progress is being made, and the end result is so exciting that even the current horrific circumstances can't quite drown out my anticipation for it. I'm going to get a body I actually like. Not just a body I tolerate. Not just a body that's better than all prior ones. A body I like, one I'll actually feel like is properly me. Because it will be me. My soul, expanded and shifted and solidified into something both flesh and anima. It's been the work of many months, with theory and design assistance from both Penelope and Grandmama, but once we figured out how to use a slurry of carbon, water, and a handful of other things to hold a soul without catching the Mistwatcher's attention, the trick became how to dissect anima tangibility spells in such a way that allowed us to deepen the connection between my two home universes. Anima and mana don't interact with matter or other energy types under normal conditions because they're foreign to this world, sourced from where Nora, the Mistwatcher, and I come from. But they can interact with our world, and they do. That's what magic is. Mana lends itself to this function quite easily, but getting anima to work the same way took some doing. It's arguably not anima anymore, not quite, but it's anima enough to be. White no. Me. We're getting distracted, Tal reminds me. I should probably be in front right now. What if I could, Tal? I don't really control when I'm in control. But you're right, let's get back to optimizing our life-saving techniques. I want to just do a grid travel method and be done with it, but what we need to do now that there's a clear time limit is optimize based on population density, so we probably want to circle over to oh hey there we go. I sigh, stretching our body and speeding up towards the next most effective area to spread our talents. There's one more thing we almost forgot about as well, and we need to swallow our pride and stop wasting it. Brum! I shout, pointing with one arm. 129 yards. I point a different direction. 134 yards. Yet another direction. 150 yards. He and I did this years ago, shortly before the bastard decided to arrest me. I've always looked back at that with some level of regret. I certainly don't think I was making a bad decision when I tried to run the fuck away, as I doubt I would have liked anything that would result from trying to cooperate with Templars, but would it have been worse? I'm starting to suspect now that it wouldn't have been. To give up most of those souls would have been a viable compromise. Penta, and Jillian, and Nora obviously accepted, and ultimately, compromise probably would have made a difference. Sure, the Templars are arrogant, selfish, and fundamentally wrong, but I was so caught up in that, so caught in my hatred of them, that those facts superseded even my own well-being. I wonder what my life would have been like as an inquisitor rather than a prisoner. Working alongside many of the people I ultimately killed. Maybe figuring out the deal behind ours before I unwittingly unleashed him on the world a second time. I don't know. I guess I'll never know. Just another of the infinite what-ifs. Yeah, now you're the one getting distracted, Zoe chides. Also, fuck the Templars. We didn't have Mortist's influence back then, so I doubt we could have gotten our head out of our ass even if they gave us a pretty good deal. Which they didn't, may I remind you. Yeah, but you don't really make deals with someone who just tossed a white at you. That would be insane. We escalated that fast and hard, and I can't really blame them for putting us down even harder. Braum might have stood up for us, had we pleaded with him enough. Yeah, but we couldn't do that, Zoe reminds me, and I know she's right. We couldn't compromise because we couldn't believe in a world where compromise worked out for us. It was us against everyone. That's how Vita was raised, alone, abused, and starving. What is a person like that supposed to do, other than take and take and take just to have hope of seeing tomorrow? Okay, I know. Sorry, I just wish we could have healed a bit sooner, I guess. Well, we didn't. And I don't think I'd call us healed now. We're a fucking mess that just happens to be getting better. That counts as healing. Healing, sure. But not healed. Ugh. What is it about mass, cataclysmic death that makes us so damn introspective? We continue teleporting, rescuing, and collecting the fallen. What else can we do? It takes nearly another hour to finish, leaving us with a deep, hanging exhaustion as we return to the refugee camp to make sure it hasn't exploded while we weren't looking. Overall impression of the souls in the area indicates it could be worse, I guess. Nobody's happy, but why would anyone be happy? Pretty much everything everybody owned just got broken and now they're watching a God-eaten impossibility. They are taking their first look at heaven and realizing it might not be what they personally had in mind. Took them long enough. The important thing is that they are not rioting. They are not calm, per se. They are definitely terrified. But it's the stunned kind of fear, certainly at risk of evolving into the dangerous kind of fear but not quite there. Now comes the really hard part, making sure all these people can believably expect food, water, and shelter before that stun wears off. And frustratingly, I think I'm going to be almost entirely useless at this. I am not an engineer or architect or civic planner, I am a hammer and I am altogether too good at seeing other things as nails. I spot Penelope and float over to her. She's shouting directions at people, winding a tendril around her as I approach. Life was a lot easier when I could just use violence to solve all my problems, I sigh. She chuckles. It was certainly simpler, but that's the thing about violence, she says. It is very good at solving problems. It's just equally good at starting them, too. True enough, I agree. You got things here? You have word control if you need it. I'll be fine, darling, she assures me. We're getting to the fun part, now. Where are you headed? Back to Mima's, I tell her. Gotta go make sure everyone's okay before I go crazy. Alright, she nods. Rest well. Ah. You wouldn't happen to know what exactly is going on up there, would you? I shake my head. Not a fucking clue. Penelope takes a moment to stare up at the hole in the sky, her soul twinging with that mortifying mix of melancholy, nostalgia, and hate that usually means she's thinking about Gildra. I can't help but wonder why, but I know better than to press right now. I want to find out, she says. Somehow I feel as though it changes everything. I nod. If no one else, Nora probably knows. We'll be sure to ask her. But later. I just spent all day teleporting around the entire continent and devouring metal supplies while yelling at people to shut up and get away from unstable structures. And frankly, it didn't go well. I don't want to think about the number of people who inevitably just died. I'm grumpy and exhausted and my everything hurts. My soul hurts. Though that could also be growing pains from the metamorphosis. Also the new holes in my Thanatos body. I really need to rest. We'll figure it out, I say, not really knowing if we will. Love you, Penelope. Love you, Vita. I pull more of myself into the world, my mana channel glutted, swollen, and sore, before shaping it into a teleportation spell and appearing in the center of Mima's. Next to my home. The emotional spectrum of souls here is noticeably different from the Skyhope refugee camp, as while everyone is still terrified of the sky, no one is in personal danger beyond that. It's a deep general anxiety, but one mitigated by the people here still holding their loved ones in the comfort of their own homes. No one seems to be injured, no homes seem to be destroyed. I make a mental note to do something special for to kill from above. His architecture knowledge, even if it's just something passed down to him from the masters of his craft before him, is why my people can rest so easily. It's so easy to see why Liriope makes our men this way, Zoe comments. Who wouldn't want an army of perfect servants? It's like if all our revenants were also masters at anything we could ever want them to do. And yet it feels wrong. Because they are controlled. They are free insofar as anyone who desires servitude can be free. And that's the question which keeps bothering me, is it wrong to control someone who wants to be controlled? It feels like the answer is really obviously no, but things feel like they break down when I wonder why. I feel like we've had plenty of evidence as to why it's bad, though. Theodora. Nora. Fucking Penelope. Yes, of course, that's all horrific and fucked up, but it's horrific and fucked up because none of those people wanted to be controlled. At least not while they weren't being controlled, anyway. But is that universal? Was it wrong to have made to kill from above, a born servant who loves servitude and by all accounts lives a very happy life here? Would it be wrong to control someone who, without being coerced into it, asks to be made into a servant? And if yes, why? What element of morality is more important than the happiness of the society and people for whom the moral system is built? What the fuck am I missing? Why is Liriopian humanity so damn incompatible? Weird time to be lost in thought, don't you think? Lynn asks, exiting our house and giving me a cocky grin. Actually, it's my experience that world-shattering acts of God make for an excellent backdrop for introspection, I say, glancing up at the sky again. The Mistwatcher seems to be drinking the last of the sphere's glowing center, the chunks of crust that formed the shell heading towards us, likely to become new islands. Lynn chuckles, walking over and giving me a one-armed side hug. I lean my head onto her shoulder. So, what the fuck is going on, exactly? She asks. Why does everyone keep assuming that I know? I grumble. Because, honey, when one of my kids starts eating souls and growing tentacles and ranting about how the very foundation of our world is a lie perpetuated to maintain the power of the church, I feel like I wouldn't be a supportive mother if I didn't have faith in your ability to be the cause of every wrathful act of God thereafter. I chuckle, wrapping a few tendrils around her. I love you, Mom. I'd be so dead without you. Yeah, probably. Not like that would have stopped you. True enough, I smirk. We stand together, holding each other and staring up at the impossible sky. Quiet and loving, it's exactly the sort of beautiful moment I need after today. Okay, but when I asked if you knew what was going on, I was hoping for at least a general guesstimate, you know? Lynn says, clearing her throat. White no like, are we all about to die, or? Oh. I jolt. Oh, no, no. You're not gonna die. This has happened before, apparently. I know some people who survived. Whatever this is. You're fine, you can relax. Oh thank fuck, Lynn sighs. We're good. Everything's good. Yeah, so far as I know. There might be some falling rocks later, but I'll take care of them. Also I think the calendar is about to stop working. Like, years will be different. That sort of thing. Cool. Lynn grins. Awesome. Okay. Who needs calendars anyway? Good luck with the rocks, kiddo. Not a kiddo. I protest. You'll always be my kiddo, I sigh, shaking my head as I pull away from her. Now that she mentions it, I should probably at least go reassure people that we're not all about to die. I'll start with people I know personally, mostly because I'm tired, and then do a general announcement. Bye, Mom. Tell everyone hi. I'll be by later once. Well, all this is taken care of. Alright, I'll let them know you are 100% taking care of this hole the sky opens up and God walks through it to eat a marble thing. Lynn nods, giving me 2 thumbs up. Knock 'em dead. Thanks Mom, I smirk, and walk towards Jelisavetta's house. She, feels like she's freaking the fuck out about something, so I should see if I can help. I could just teleport, but... I'm tired as fuck. I stroll down the uncharacteristically quiet streets, wondering how much damage was done in places I can't see. Were loose and fragile objects secured? I wish I knew anything about any of this. I suppose the downside to being used to servants taking care of everything is that I end up kind of incompetent at those tasks. Unlike most of the town, I find Jelisaveta outside her house, still staring up at the sky with a look of horror on her face. I take my time getting to her, glancing up to follow her gaze, but not really able to see whatever it is she's freaking out about. You okay? I ask instead, since I'm pretty sure she is not, and that's the polite way to breach the subject. There's people up there, she says quietly. I can't help it, I have to do a double take at that. What? I ask. On the marble? Yes, she says. On it and on the rock coming off it, too. I can't see them very well, but there are buildings. Enormous structures. Farms. People. Millions of them. Maybe billions. And it's all being torn apart. Holy shit. Okay. I'm sorry, Jelisa, I don't think I can help them, I say softly. Jelisaveta doesn't react for a moment, just staring up at the sky until her mind catches up with the conversation and she turns to me in shock. What? Oh, Watcher, no. I didn't mean it like that, Vita. You've done enough. Thank you. It looks like some of them are surviving, at least. Somehow. I think the Mist Watcher is keeping them alive on purpose, on top of those new islands it's making. That's crazy, I sigh. Shit, is that where we come from? How do they not all fall off the orb? Are they all on top of it, or something? I don't know, Jelsa says, squinting up at the ongoing apocalypse. I'm not sure the orb has a top, really. I think they were all over the outside. And I mean, I always thought that down was just the direction of the Mist Watcher, but now he's up there, and we're not falling up, so who the fuck knows how anything works anymore? I finish for her. Yeah. I get it. I managed to catch a glimpse off the edge of the island during my rounds, and I'm not quite sure how to describe it. There were islands below us, and then the spot where the Mist Watcher usually is was empty, and then beyond even that were yet more islands. But like upside down. The ones on the far side of the mist-watcher were oriented the other way, like a big sphere all around him. And I knew that's how the world was shaped, but seeing it without the centerpiece was a little jarring. I can only imagine, Jaleesa says quietly. The mist-watcher isn't a god, I say. He's just whatever I am, but way, way bigger. I've known that for a long time now, but fuck. I never really got how much bigger until now. The matter of scale is, I'll never catch up with that. I'll never even come close to touching it. Not in a million years. Not in a billion. So what am I supposed to do? Another pause. Jaleesa doesn't seem to have an answer, so we just continue staring upwards until she decides on another subject. Lark's not home yet, Jaleesa states evenly, though I suspect her torrent of worry would be pretty obvious even to non-empaths. She was okay last I saw, I reassure her. You know Lark. She'll probably be out helping until she collapses. Yeah, Jaleesa nods. That's exactly why I'm worried. Oh, okay. Point. I'll go find her when things calm down a little, I promise. I just need to make sure I don't collapse. Unlike Lark, I still have to sleep. Of course, yeah, Jaleesa agrees, staring back up at the sky. You get some rest too, okay? I prod her. I'm not sure it's a great idea to go out of your way to witness a civilization's last moments. Jaleesa doesn't budge, instead just shrugging helplessly. Who else is going to? She asks. Oh, Jaleesa. All right, if you're sure, I tell her, because I doubt I'll argue you out of it. Let me know if you see anything that looks like it might be falling our way, all right? We're not technically out of the woods yet. She nods, so I nod back and depart. I have a short list of things to do here in town: praise to kill, do the rounds with my revenants to make sure they're okay, reassure the villagers that the worst has passed, stuff like that. But once I finish it all up, there's only really one more thing I plan to do before passing the fuck out: introduce my sister to, well, my sisters. And brothers. And mom and dad. It's time for Tala to meet my other family. I find her soul by the Liriope teleportation platform and fly on over to meet her. She, seems to be directing a few dozen workers for some reason. As in, Liriope workers. Most people here are just going to attack or flee from those on site, you know, I tell her, floating down to stand beside her. Huh? She asks, blinking up at me in surprise. Why would? Oh, right, the worm stuff. Yes, Tala, I smirk. The worm stuff. Well. Phooey. She sighs. Dang it, I thought I was being all clever getting some men donated for this. I'm not sure how else to help, you know? Yeah, I do, I nod. Gosh, I mean, we could maybe have them set up homes and stuff in a completely separate clearing from the one we're keeping the humans in, then move them in afterwards. No contact? Oh, yeah. Tala agrees, brightening up again. Good idea, Mal. Every few days or so I'm allowed to have one of those, I joke. I'll let Penelope know they're on the way. I cast a quick communication spell designed to only be detectable by a specific spell that Penelope has active to send her the information, then help Tala give the men instructions so they actually know where to go. Then, finally, with all our work done, we can go talk to Lynn, Rowan and the kids. Come on. I laugh, yanking her along by one arm. Is now really the best time. Tala hedges. There's sort of an apocalypse going on. Yeah, but it's not our apocalypse, I dismiss. Besides, someone will give us a heads up long before any falling debris can get close to us. Yeah, I guess. I chuckle. You're nervous about meeting the rest of my family, aren't you? I prod her, again phrasing it as a question instead of a statement of fact. I'm getting good at that. It's white no. A bunch of humans I've heard you tell stories about. Tala says hesitantly. I don't know them. I won't even be able to understand them. It's gonna be super awkward, so if I'm being honest, I'm really tempted to just wait like, what, 50 or 60 years until they die. Tala. I tried, punching her lightly on the shoulder. Don't be like that, it won't be that bad. Besides, they're not gonna die of old age anyway, they're gonna be immortal. Wait, really? Tala blinks. Won't the progenitor get super mad at you if you uplift a savage species like that? She'll only get mad if I do it, I dismiss. She doesn't care if Penelope does it. It's fine if a species uplifts themselves, right? I guess so. You haven't helped her though, right? Not in any way I can't cover up. I answer cheerfully. Anyway, we're here. We land on my porch and I let Tala inside, calling out for my family. A swarm of children soon converge on us from around the house, Lynn and Rowan behind them. Greetings, sisters of my sister, Tala says, bowing with excessive formality. Mother and donor, as well. Your flesh is my flesh. It is my honor to be one with your lineage. How the fuck do I translate this? She's excluding the boys bar Rowan mostly because of a quirk of culture where queens and princesses don't really have brothers, and even Rowan is being called donor because dads aren't really a thing either, except for animals and, savages. So she's actually being really respectful by calling him my donor instead of my father, but I don't think that'd come across well. Also the whole "it is my honor to be one with your lineage" line is mostly for like, when a queen has dated another queen for so long that they're basically married and consider each other's parents to be their parents, and it's the closest cultural equivalent to what's going on here, but explaining that might feel a little incesty by human standards, so I can't really say it that way. Shoot, this is unexpectedly difficult. She says hi, I decide. Well, hello to you too. Lynn greets. It's nice to meet you, Tala. Yes, we've heard a lot about you, Rowan nods. I suppose it's largely thanks to you that our daughter has been able to be happy on your island, so I thank you for that. Can't I climb you? Ronnie nearly yells. Vida lets us climb her. They say hi back, I translate for Tala. Also, Ronnie wants to climb you. Is that, a normal human greeting? Tala asks. No. It is not. Then I respectfully decline. The conversation continues, and I'll be the first to admit it's awkward. I really wish I had Penelope or To Kill here to do the translation for me, because I'm super bad at this. I let Ronnie and whoever else wants to climb on me instead, and the conversation mostly goes okay. It doesn't go badly, at least, so I'm glad it happens at all. I want my family to at least know each other. I'm not really sure why. I guess it's important to me that the people who are important to me get along and have some connection beyond my stories. I want to be a part of the things the people I care about are a part of, and I likewise want them to be a part of the things I'm a part of. The interconnectedness is comforting, in some way. A prod from Nora jolts my attention and I scowl slightly, focusing on the manga world for a moment to see what she wants. Still sapient, honey? She asks jokingly. How's your island? About as good as can be expected for a place with no comprehension of what the fuck just happened, I answer. Speaking of, what the fuck just happened? Well, the short answer is that as big as Big Brother is, the world outside his loveless cradle is infinitely bigger, perhaps literally so. So he roams around with us in tow, slurping up metal and new prisoners and whatever else catches his fancy. This sort of thing happens every 500 to 1,000 years or so. That's wow. I manage. So this is where we all come from, I assume. Humans and Athanatos and everybody? We're from those weird skyarbs? And he just breaks them apart and steals us? Right on the money. Nora confirms. It's nasty business. The new souls he puts in everyone he keeps alive tend to wipe their memories or drive them mad, too, possibly by design. I believe he tries to destroy the cultures of the people he takes on purpose, resetting them to minimize the chances that they'll be able to fight back. Of course, Some things always remain stuck in the cracks, like written works and whatever technology he fails to destroy. That's still so horrific, though. I comment, odd. But, wait. If every species here actually comes from one of those sky orbs, where do the sky orbs come from? I have absolutely no idea. Nora answers cheerfully. Well, fair enough, I guess. Indeed. So anyway, dear sister, the reason I'm bothering you is that this situation actually presents a unique opportunity for convenient travel. With him all the way out in the great void, he's not really capable of paying much attention to little things like you and I, so rather than taking a long, frustrating journey from island to island, constantly fearing Big Brother's wrath, you should be able to fly straight here. I would greatly love for you to visit. It'd really put a nice bow on this stinking pile of shit that is the skybreak, happening at least 50 years before my plans were in ideal condition. And I'd have to wait 10 times that for this to happen again. Oh, sorry sis. I commiserate. It's fine, she groans. Don't worry about it. What's another 1,000 years, really? Anyway, I'm getting the place all cleaned up for you. Please come by soon. I never get good company these days. Here, I'll make you a map. She forms herself into an image of the current island configuration, labeling both Liriope and wherever she is, an island that, on the map, looks like any other. A quick monomate image of the island closer up also appears, and though it, too, looks unremarkable, I do my best to memorize its shape. We're pretty damn far from Nora's island, but I suppose with the power I've recently acquired I can probably fly people there without too much difficulty. Thank you, I tell her. One concern, though, it looked like the Mist Watcher was getting pretty close to done eating that sky orb thing. If I start heading over there and he finishes, won't I absolutely, definitely die? Oh honey, no. Nora dismisses. No, we're nowhere close to done, darling. This is just the appetizer. He targets occupied planets first, you see, but there's far more than that nearby. Don't you worry about a thing, darling Vita. I'd give this 20 days minimum before Big Brother even thinks about coming back. Alright, I tell her. It looks like you're a good way away from where I am, but I should be able to make the trip within the next few days. I'll keep you posted. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It'll be so lovely to meet you in the flesh, love. Likewise, I answer back, surprised at my own honesty. My girlfriend and I have actually been taking bets on what your body will be like. I think you'll like her. Exciting. Well then, I shan't spoil the surprise for you any more than I already have, darling. See you soon. See you, Nora. Vita, honey? I hear Lynn say as I come back to my body. You alright? Sorry, what? I ask, shaking the fog from my head. You spaced out a bit there, Tala says. Just talking with Nora, I answer. Looks like we have our flight plan figured out. You sure you don't wanna come with us, Tala? Noop, count me out, sorry, Tala answers firmly. Your humans are weird, but at least they're not illegal to talk about by decree of the progenitor. That's a level of fuck this that exceeds my thresholds, sis. I understand, I nod. What about you, Lynn? What about me, what? She asks. Oh, right, the language barrier. You sure you don't wanna come with me to meet Nora? I ask. Oh. Nah, I should stay here with the kids, she answers, shaking her head. Bring me a souvenir, though. You want me to bring you a souvenir from the crazy biomancer's lair? The place called the Island of Life and Death? Yeah. Now I want one even more, that sounds kick-ass. Please don't bring us anything dangerous, Rowan sighs. Sure. Okay. If I can find literally anything on the island which fits that criteria, I'll see if I can nab it, I drawl. Thanks, honey. Lynn grins. Maybe something for the kids, too. I sigh, clutching both sides of my face. What are they saying? Tala asks me. It's difficult to translate, I lie brazenly. Tala starts to call me on it, but Jalisa sends me an alert about a rock falling our way, so I respectfully but rapidly bow out of the conversation, teleporting into the earth to intercept. It's just a big rock, nothing I can't handle. It's weirdly embarrassing that my genocidal bug person relatives are somehow the sane side of the family. Tope continued.